I'll say it again. We don't need to keep building all these houses and spending the billions of dollars. All you got to do is stop immigration. That's it. Until you catch up. We don't need them. But anyway, have a look at the plan. Watch this movie. It'll tell you a lot about what's going on with the Future Fund. And add in the digital titles that we've got now, with the voiding of your paper title, which most people don't understand yet. But in fee simple versatile, you'll understand soon enough once the UN gets their way.
Changed, and most Australians have no idea what's coming. With a few subtle lines buried deep in this year's federal budget, the future of Australian housing has quietly been rewritten. This is not a tweak. This is a seismic shift, one that will affect every renter, every homeowner, every investor, and every young Australian still trying to crack into the market. What looks like policy reform on the surface is actually a roadmap to a completely different housing landscape, one where the middle class gets squeezed harder, foreign investment gets easier, and the rental crisis is locked in for the long term. Let's unpack what they are not telling you, and why this budget is the beginning of the end for housing as we know it. Chapter 1. The Promise. More supply, lower prices. The government has promised to fix the housing crisis by building more homes. 1.2 million new dwellings over 5 years. Sounds great on paper. But here's the catch. The vast majority of these new homes are not for ownership. They're built by institutional investors, super funds, hedge funds, and overseas syndicates to be part of Australia's booming build-to-rent sector. This means fewer houses available to buy, more long-term renters, and a system where your landlord is a multi-billion-dollar fund based in Singapore or Toronto. So while they say they're addressing housing supply, they're really building a permanent rent class, a generation of Australians who will never own, only pay. Chapter 2. Build to Rent, the Trojan Horse. Touted as a solution to rental shortages, Build to Rent has been heavily incentivized in the new budget. Tax breaks, reduced foreign investor surcharges, and faster planning approvals are all designed to attract big capital into building entire residential towers for rent-only purposes. But this model, imported from the United States and the United Kingdom, comes with a catch. The rent is not cheap. These developments are premium corporate-managed apartments aimed at high earners or international arrivals. The real winners, global investors and super funds. The losers, anyone trying to buy their first home. Chapter 3. Foreign investment loopholes. Widen. While Australian citizens struggle to afford basic housing, the door has been quietly widened for foreign buyers. Foreign investors will pay less tax under the new build-to-rent rules. They'll also benefit from faster approvals and access to prime development land. In fact, the FIRB, Foreign Investment Review Board, restrictions have been sidestepped through new development carve-outs, meaning entire towers of apartments can be sold or leased to foreign interests before locals even get a look in. At the same time, Australians are being told to wait their turn, save harder, and accept that ownership may no longer be achievable. This is not a housing policy. It is a reallocation of land and housing rights, away from citizens toward global capital. Chapter 4. Superannuation funds now compete with buyers. Australia's biggest super funds are now throwing billions into the housing market. On the surface, it looks like they're investing in the future of the nation. But here's the truth. They're not building homes for you. They're building homes for profit. They're partnering with foreign developers to construct rent-only housing, and they're using your retirement savings to do it. This means the average Australian is now competing with their own super fund in the housing market, and losing. It's one thing to be priced out by a boomer with 10 properties. It's another to be priced out by your own super account. Chapter 5. What it means for renters. If you rent, this budget may look like good news at first glance. More supply, more rental options, but don't be fooled. These are not affordable rentals. They're corporate-managed apartments in high-density zones designed for maximum return, not livability. Rents will not drop. They will stabilize at a new, higher baseline. And tenant rights? Still weak. Build-to-rent models are built for investor security, not renter protections. In 5 years, you may still be renting, just under the watch of a fund manager instead of a local landlord. Real-life renter stories are already showing what's coming. Tanya in Brisbane had her rent increase 3 times in a year in a newly built apartment. Her landlord? A pension fund based in Canada. She never met them, could never speak to anyone, and lived under constant uncertainty. Chapter 6. First home buyers left behind. Once again, first home buyers got the raw end of the deal. No significant new grants, no structural changes to housing tax policy, no national home building scheme aimed at ownership. Instead, they are told to compete in a market flooded with investor capital, foreign funds, and government-backed institutions. 28-year-old Tom in Sydney has saved for 5 years. Every time he gets close to a deposit, prices jump again. Or he's outbid by someone with a cash offer or backed by family wealth. Prices may cool slightly in some areas. But ownership is slipping further away from the average Australian. The ladder hasn't just been pulled up. It's been burned. Chapter 7. A permanent class divide. This budget does something deeper than reshuffle numbers. It sets the stage for a long-term class divide. On one side, property owners, investors, developers, and institutions. On the other, renters, locked-out buyers, and those with no intergenerational wealth. Australia is drifting toward a European model of permanent renters. But unlike Europe, we don't have strong tenant laws, affordable public housing, or cultural acceptance of long-term renting. We are becoming a nation of landlords and tenants, with fewer pathways in between. Chapter 8. The psychological toll. The impact isn't just financial, it's emotional, generational, cultural. Young people are delaying families not because they want to, but because they can't afford to raise kids in unstable housing. Mental health workers report a rise in anxiety related to housing insecurity. Teachers are seeing more students moving between rentals or living in cars. We are watching the erosion of what used to be called the Australian dream. Chapter 9. The political shell game. This shift didn't happen overnight. It's the product of decades of political decisions. And this budget is just the latest chapter. Governments claim to be addressing housing affordability while propping up the very system that created the crisis. Negative gearing remains untouched. Capital gains discounts stay intact. Planning reform is left to states. And federal funding flows not into public housing, but into partnerships with developers. And behind the scenes, a property lobby spending millions to keep the system running. Chapter 10. What could have been done instead? This budget could have taken a different route. It could have introduced caps on foreign land ownership, removed tax loopholes for investors, created a national public housing building program, directed super funds to fund ownership, not just rental developments, established renter protections and price caps for institutional landlords. But it didn't, because that would hurt the profits of those in power. Chapter 11. The long-term consequences. If this trajectory continues, here's what Australia's housing future looks like. Ownership rates will keep falling, especially among under 40s. More Australians will retire in rental stress. Entire suburbs will be owned by corporations, not people. Housing wealth will concentrate in the hands of institutions. The average family will become tenants for life. And once the model is entrenched, it is very hard to undo, because corporations do not give back what they've been allowed to take. Final thoughts. A nation at a crossroads. This budget was a fork in the road, and Australia took the wrong turn. Instead of investing in public housing, ownership pathways, and citizen equity, we've handed the future of our cities to the same forces that caused this mess. It's a quiet revolution dressed in budget line items. And if we don't wake up now, the next generation will never know what housing security actually means. Subscribe for more truth about Australia's political and economic landscape. And to understand how our housing market became a Ponzi scheme, watch this next video here.